The second I stepped into the Savoy Grand ballroom, I heard her, Madison Hale, my brother's perfect fiance, tilt her champagne glass and whisper, loud on purpose, "Ugh, the farm girl smell is here." Her bridesmaids laughed like hyenas. I stood there, boots on marble I owned, thinking, you have no idea whose ground you're standing on. 3 years ago, I signed the deed to this hotel. Tonight, they invited me as a pity RSVP. I came in jeans and swallowed a lifetime of being treated like a mistake. So tell me, if you were me, would you stay quiet or choose revenge? Because I'm about to ask you, am I in the wrong? Drop a comment, hit subscribe, and listen. This gets ugly. I'm Mia Carter, 31, raised in a blink-and-you-miss-it town in Pennsylvania, where the biggest scandal was somebody's cows blocking Main Street. Leaving at 18 wasn't the hard part. The hard part was realizing your own family can make you feel like you don't belong anywhere. So there I was at my brother Ethan's engagement party, at the Savoy Grand, my hotel, watching Madison Hale glide through the room like she owned the air. And then she said it, not to my face. Of course not. She leaned toward her bridesmaids and murmured, loud enough for me to hear, "Oh, great, the stinky country girl is here." Stinky country girl. My face stayed calm, but inside, that old ache lit up. The one you get when you've spent your whole life being the extra in someone else's story. Diane, my mother, found me and scanned my jeans and boots like I'd committed a crime. "You couldn't dress nicer?" she asked. Then, sharp and low, "Madison's family is refined. Please don't embarrass us." Not, "I'm glad you came. Just don't embarrass us." Ethan finally wandered over, smiling like a man who thought he'd won. "Madison's amazing," he said, like I hadn't already watched her treat me like a stain. He barely waited for my reply before drifting away, same as always. Then he dropped the next bomb. "Mom gave Madison Grandma Rose's necklace," he said, proud, "as an engagement gift. Wasn't that generous?" My stomach went cold. That necklace wasn't just jewelry. It was my grandmother's last promise, pressed into my palm with a whisper, "For you, sweetheart. You're the one who keeps getting back up." Mom was in the room when she said it. Mom knew. And now the pendant glittered at Madison's throat while she laughed, wearing my inheritance like she'd earned it. I slipped into the hallway just to breathe. That's when I heard Madison's father, Charles Hale, on the phone. He didn't notice me. He sounded frantic. "We need this wedding to happen," he snapped. "The Carters have money. We just have to get through the ceremony. After that, we're fine." The Carters have money. We didn't, not really. My parents were barely holding on. I knew because I'd been paying their second mortgage and bills quietly for years through my company, Harborline Hospitality. No name, no credit. Just help, because I couldn't watch them drown even if they acted like I wasn't worth noticing. And suddenly it clicked. Diane must have assumed the money came from Ethan, because in her world, Ethan is the hero, and I'm the inconvenience. She probably bragged about his success. Madison's family heard it and saw a target. Back in the ballroom, the Hales looked different once you knew. Charles checked his phone like it might explode. His wife, Lydia, touched her jewelry like she was afraid it would vanish. Madison smiled too hard, like the smile was holding her whole life together. Then Madison cornered me near the restrooms, her grin sweet as poison. The second we were alone, it dropped. "I know about your little money transfers," she said. "Trying to buy your family's love? Pathetic. Pathetic." She leaned closer and whispered, "Ethan told me everything, how you've always been jealous, how they only tolerate you out of pity." Then she patted my arm like I was a child and added, "Do everyone a favor and stay out of our lives. Nobody would miss you." I stood there with my throat tight, feeling 12 years old again. And the worst part? She believed it. She truly thought I was broke. She truly thought I was nothing. Meanwhile, I owned the ground under her overpriced heels. So, if you were me, would you swallow it like I always did? Or would you make them choke on the truth? I tried to be the bigger person, smile, sip. Don't start a scene. But Madison's words kept looping. Nobody would miss you. like I was air. And here's the ugly truth. For a few seconds, I believed her. That's what years of being the lesser kid does. It rewires you. I slid to the bar and ordered a drink I didn't even taste. Across the room, my general manager, Jordan Price, caught my eye. Calm, capable, the kind of guy who could run a crisis with a clipboard. He gave me the tiniest nod. Translation: say the word. So I did. I pulled Jordan near the service corridor where the music faded. I need background on the Hale family, I told him. Business records, lawsuits, news, anything. Now. He didn't ask why. He just moved. While he dug, I watched the Hales like a hawk. Madison worked the room like a politician, air-kissing strangers and laughing too hard. Charles kept slipping out for calls, coming back with that salesman smile glued on. Lydia's fingers never stopped worrying her jewelry. They looked rich. But they moved like people afraid the floor might crack. My phone buzzed. Ethan. Something feels off, he texted. Can we talk? I stared at it. Where were you when she called me stinky? Where were you when Mom gave away Grandma's necklace? I swallowed the words and typed, after the toast, trust me. At 8:40, Jordan returned with a folder so thick it made his hand shake. His face was pale. Mia, you need to see this, he whispered. I flipped it open in the hallway. Court filings, investor complaints, articles about a real estate group under investigation. The deeper I read, the colder my hands got. This wasn't a little debt. This was fraud. Multi-state, organized, intentional. Jordan leaned in. Federal investigators are circling, he said. It's active. My mind snapped into place. If they're scammers, this wedding isn't love. It's an exit plan. They think Ethan is the money. They think our family is the lifeboat. I walked to the parking garage to breathe. Under the fluorescent lights, the folder felt like a warning. If I did nothing, Ethan would marry into a con, and when the truth hit, they'd vanish and leave him wrecked. And as much as Ethan had ignored me, he was still my brother. So I called my lawyer, Lauren Pierce. Can you verify this tonight? I asked. Give me an hour, she said. And Mia, don't move without backup. Then I called Tessa Grant, a forensic accountant who lives for patterns. I sent photos. She called back fast, voice tight with adrenaline. Ponzi-style setup, she said. Investor funds recycled through shells. Same signatures, same timing. Then she paused. I found an Arizona case from 3 years ago. Same play, different names. My stomach dropped. Madison? Her real name isn't Madison Hale, Tessa said. She was Brianna Cole in Arizona. Same face, same eyes, different hair, different parents. I sat in my car and let out this sharp, bitter laugh, not because it was funny, but because it was insane. The woman who called me stinky had been wearing a fake life like a costume. Lauren texted, verified, federal case active, warrants pending. That's when my anger turned clean. Not a tantrum. A plan. They wanted a wedding? Fine. I was about to give them a ceremony they'd never forget. And hey, if you're still with me, tap a like and drop a comment, because what happened next flipped that ballroom upside down. I found Jordan again and slid him a USB drive. During Charles's toast, I said, I want every screen in that room to tell the truth. He looked at me for one beat, then nodded like it was the most normal request in the world. That's when I knew. This wasn't going to be messy. It was going to be surgical. 90 would hit like a countdown in my bones. Charles Hale stepped onto the stage, smoothed his tie, and lifted the microphone like the room belonged to him. The DJ lowered the music. Glasses rose. I stood near the back, boots on marble with my signature on the deed. Jordan was in the AV booth. I texted one word. Now. Charles smiled. To family, he began. To legacy. The screens behind him flickered. The cute slideshow of Ethan and Madison vanished, replaced by a court document stamped with seals and case numbers. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Charles froze. Technical error, he stammered, glaring toward the booth. But the screens kept changing. Investor complaints, wire transfer trails, a headline about fraud, then photos of Madison at a gala under a different name. And there it was in bold. Brianna Cole. Madison's face drained. Ethan stared at her like his mind couldn't catch up. Charles took one step toward the exit. My security stepped in front of him. That's when I walked forward. People parted without thinking. Jordan's voice came over the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the owner of the Savoy Grand and CEO of Harborline Hospitality, Ms. Mia Carter. My mother went white. Ethan's jaw dropped. Madison looked at me like she'd just realized the nobody she mocked had been holding the keys the whole time. I took the microphone from Charles's limp hand. Good evening, I said. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I thought you deserved the truth about who you're celebrating. Madison snapped, loud and cruel. She's lying. She's jealous. She's always been pathetic. Pathetic. Again, I kept my voice calm. Then you won't mind the federal investigators, Tia, I said. And right on cue, the ballroom doors opened. 4 agents walked in, badges visible. Agent Dana Morales headed straight for Charles. You're under arrest for wire fraud, investment fraud, and conspiracy, she said. Chaos erupted. Lydia crying, Charles trying to bolt, guests gasping. Madison, Brianna, spun toward Ethan pleading. Baby, you love me. Tell them it's a mistake. Ethan's hands shook. He stared at her for a long second, then stepped back. I don't know who you are, he whispered. I don't think I ever did. Madison's panic flipped into rage. She lunged at me, screaming, You were supposed to be nobody. You're just that stinky country girl. Security caught her. I leaned in and said, Quiet enough for only her. This nobody owns the room you're standing in, and you're leaving it in cuffs. They dragged her out. The doors shut. The room exhaled. I turned to the guests and forced a tiny laugh. Well, the catering's already paid for, I said. Seems a shame to waste good food. Nervous laughter. The DJ hit play like we hadn't just watched a future bride get arrested. Ethan found me by the bar, wrecked. How did you know? He asked. I listened, I said. I watched. I paid attention, like I always have. Then my mother approached, trembling. I showed her my phone. Years of payments from Harborline to their mortgage and bills. You thought it was Ethan, I said. It was me. It was always me. She tried to speak. No words came. On the floor near the dance floor, I spotted Grandma Rose's necklace tossed aside. Ethan picked it up and placed it in my hand. This was always yours, he said, voice breaking. In that moment, the revenge didn't feel like fire. It felt like relief. So tell me, would you have exposed them like I did? Or stayed quiet to keep the peace? Drop a comment. And if you're still here, hit like and share this because the next part changed my family forever. 3 weeks later, the hotel lobby felt normal again. Tourists dragging suitcases, business people complaining about coffee, my staff moving like clockwork. The Hales were in custody, the federal case finally public, and Madison was back to being Brianna Cole on every document that mattered. Ethan came to my office for the first time and just stood there, quiet, like he couldn't believe I built all of it without him ever noticing. Mom started therapy. We're not magically healed. Trust doesn't respawn overnight. But we're talking. Real talking. And I did one more thing. At a breakfast with investors, a nervous scholarship student walked in and some rich guy snorted, Who let her in? I stood up and said, That's Emma Reed. She belongs at this table. Because I know what it feels like to be judged before you speak, so am I in the wrong? For blowing up an engagement party to stop a con? For choosing revenge when staying silent would have been easier? All I know is this. People will try to make you small. Don't shrink, build. If this hit you, drop your take in the comments. Subscribe for more stories and share it with someone who needs the reminder. I read every comment, truly.